So, what I'll do is I'm going to give you a little bit of background to the part of the body that we're looking at, or the body system that we're looking at, and then go more into, for most of the time, on the microbiology. So what we're looking at is, in this, are infections that can affect the skin, or that go by way of the skin. And looking at this from a micro point of view, right, first of all, we have this outer layer which provides protection called the epidermis. Right, so it's an outer portion that has several layers of epithelial cells. There's also dead cells that form a protective layer called keratin. And so you can see that right here. Here's the epidermis. That's this layer right here. Okay? And so this is actually a very effective physical barrier to keep out microbes. However, there are ways that microbes can get in. There is a passageway that they can get through, such as hair follicles, sweat glands, oil glands, that gets into the dermis, which is the inner thick portion of the skin. So here's the dermis, and then here are the various passageways, okay, that if a microbe can get through this, that will allow them a way to get deeper into the skin, right? Okay, so there are those passageways, and also as a protective, another protection that we have against microbes, our skin produces chemicals that can inhibit microbes. So one is simply our sweat, our perspiration. There's salt, and there's also lysozyme. Okay, and also our skin produces sebum, which are fatty acids, and that's also antimicrobial. Okay. All right. So there are different ways that we keep out microorganisms, that allow us to keep out microorganisms outside of our skin. But remember, and we'll see this, that there are ways that these microbes can get in. And if there's a break in the skin, like an injury, right, that also will allow microbes to enter. All right, so what I'm going to do is go through some examples of microorganisms. And what I like to do is focus on certain examples, because what you'll find is that when you look at other microbes, you'll find similarities between those and the ones that we talk about. Okay. So the first one is Staph aureus. All right. So Staph aureus is a bacteria that we work with from time to time in this course. I'm going to talk about the pathogenic forms of Staphylococcus aureus. And keep in mind that this is also a bacteria that a lot of you have right now on your bodies. Okay, it's commonly found in the upper respiratory tract and also on your skin. There's an experiment that we'll do where you will culture microbes from your skin, and you probably will see some type of Staphylococcus on your skin. Okay. Now, the way that Staphylococcus is also known to be a very invasive organism. It can cause lots of different illnesses. And we'll see Staphylococcus aureus pop up in different body systems. So for now, we're going to talk about the skin. And one way that it can penetrate the skin is it produces toxins. Right? So toxins are toxic to the cells, and that's what can allow it to directly invade. Okay? They also produce enzymes to help break away the tissue that allows it to penetrate into the skin. The types of lesions that result from infection with Staphylococcus aureus. Now, commonly, it can infect the hair follicles. Right, so remember that there is this passageway that it can get through, and so that bacteria can get through. And so Staph aureus will use that, and it can cause inflammation of those follicles. So you have folliculitis, or a furuncle, or carbuncle. These are increasing degrees of the size of infection. Okay. So carbuncle, for example, these often look like they're filled with pus. Okay, so imagine you have the swelling and it has pus inside. That's what these infections look like, right? And if you have several of these that fuse together, that can form a carbuncle. Also, another type of skin condition, and this is usually actually, let me ask you. Let me first point this out. There's another skin condition called staphylococcal scalded skin syndrome, or SSSS. This is caused by the production of an exotoxin by the bacteria. Okay, so Staph aureus produces an exotoxin that kills the skin, and it causes these layers of skin to fall off. That's why it's called scalded skin, because it looks like the patient got burned, the skin is just kind of coming off. Okay. Which age group does this usually affect? Huh? Kids. That's kids, right? So it's actually young. It's actually infants where you see this. Okay. All right. And there is a picture in your book that actually shows this. All right. Yeah. And you can, by the way, you can see pictures of these different conditions. Look kind of unappetizing, so sometimes usually I don't show them, but there are a few that I will show. Okay, but if you wanted to see more details, you can certainly find that. There's impetigo. These refer to red patches on the skin. So again, that's also caused by the toxins that are produced by the bacteria. And there's also another term called erypsilas. This is where it spreads into the lymph nodes and then produces more reddening in the skin, right? Now, one thing about these conditions, impetigo and erysipelas, you will find these conditions also listed with other bacteria, right? So what we're describing here is a type of skin condition, but that skin condition could be caused by other bacteria, right? So, for example, there's a type of streptococcus that can cause these conditions, right? Okay? So just like pneumonia has different causes, so do these conditions. They can have different causes. Right, any questions about this? One thing you want to be able to do is associate some of these conditions with the proper pathogen. So, for example, staphylococcal scalded skin syndrome, right? You should be able to recognize that that is associated with Staphylococcus aureus. Okay, this is one that has a lot of attention in the news. This is the flesh-eating bacteria, right? Flesh-eating bacteria. This is caused by group A Streptococcus. It also has this acronym GAS. Okay, and this can cause really virulent infections, very powerful infections, and it can be fatal to a patient who has this, right? So Streptococcus pyogenes, again, the group A Streptococcus is a bacteria that a lot of us have, right? So you can probably find this bacteria as well in or on your bodies. Okay. The reason why it doesn't cause us any problems now is that it's kind of in a safe place, away from getting into our bodies. But if it gets introduced into our bodies in an unusual way, like sometimes what happens is if there's a break in the skin, a deep break in the skin, that can allow the bacteria to go penetrate the skin, and that's where it can cause a lot of damage to the body. Okay. So there was a case in Honolulu. How many of you been to Honolulu? A few. Okay. So they have these canals that run through parts of Honolulu, and of course they have a lot of tourists. Okay. And so apparently one tourist got intoxicated and stumbled into the canal. Right. During the stumbling process, though, right, you can imagine all the skin damage you can do, right, all the injury you can do, and so that allowed the flesh-eating bacteria, the the group A streptococcus to penetrate the skin, and that person actually died from flesh-eating disease. Okay. All right. So my uncle actually got this from got this from fishing. Right. He just kind of tripped on some rocks. Right. Got a deep cut, and it started to infect his leg. They were able to save his leg, right? Because they caught it in time. But again, it's very aggressive. The reason why it can do such damage is that it produces toxins. So it produces one toxin called exotoxin A. So this is something that some bacteria have the ability to do. Is that, remember, bacteria will induce an immune response, but sometimes they produce such a strong immune response, right? Our body overreacts and actually triggers the immune system to attack our own cells. Okay, so it's like a nuclear option, right? It blows up everything, including you, right? And that's an overreaction of our immune system. And then also there are just toxins that just destroy human cells, right? So streptococcus can do this. So as I described, in different cases, it's introduced through a break in the skin, and the condition that it causes is called necrotizing fasciitis. This is where you have a rapid infection of the subcutaneous tissue. So imagine the bacteria gets through the top layer of your skin, goes inside, and then starts to eat away or destroy the tissue within. Okay? And so you can get destruction of muscle and fat tissue, and when that happens, there's a high mortality rate. Right? So you're looking at about 50%. Any questions about this? Yes.
How common is that?
It's not. So it's not really common, but it happens enough where it gets. You always read about it. So.
Would like a knife attack cause something like that if someone was stabbed, or with a dirty knife, or
maybe.
is it more what's on the body?
Yeah, usually more what's on the body. So usually have to get kind of knocked up, get kind of messed up a bit, I guess.
Like I think like cyclists, bike riders would.
Maybe, yeah,
like that.
maybe.
When they have an accident and tumble.
Yeah.
Is that one of those where they actually have to cut the bacteria out?
Yeah,
instead
yeah.
of
They actually
the
debride the flesh. Yeah, try to get rid of it. Okay. All right. So here's another one. This is cutaneous anthrax. Okay. Now some of these conditions that I go through, either they're kind of media grabbing, or they're what we consider classic microbiology diseases. Okay. They illustrate really well what happens in a microbial infection, and what can happen during a microbial infection. Although you may not see a whole lot of cases, right? So this is one where, right, you do hear about cases of anthrax, cutaneous anthrax, but this is not one where we have like a pandemic of anthrax, okay? But it's a good illustration of what happens in the course of a skin disease. So this is caused by Bacillus anthracis. Okay? And because it's cutaneous refers to the skin. Right? And so we're going to talk about what happens when it goes through the skin. Now, anthrax, this is a zoonosis. Right? So zoonosis, as we learned, is something that you find in animals and then spills over into humans.